In this lesson, we're going to be looking at things you're going to want to consider if you're thinking about starting up your own small business. They are expenses, feasibility, and profitability of a business. And we're going to be looking at, in this video, identifying ways in which a business can improve its profitability and identifying some viable small business options. The outcomes we're going to cover include identifying expenses in operating a small business, identifying feasible small business options for a given community, and generating options that might improve the profitability of a small business. So the first thing we're going to want to look at is our expenses. When you're operating a small business, you might want to consider what kind of business you want to run. Are you going to be providing a service, or are you going to be offering goods? If you're providing a service, you probably don't need your own storefront. You can probably operate from home. You might need nothing more than a phone number and or a web page for people to reach you. And often with service businesses, you will be going to another location, maybe someone's house or someone else's business, and providing a service. So you may not need an actual physical location. If you're planning to sell goods, then you might need a store, which means a physical location from which to work from. In either case, you're going to want to consider certain startup costs. When you are starting up your business initially, before you actually open up, there are a lot of expenses you might have to incur just to get going. Some of these include, for instance, location or rent. Again, if you're selling goods, you're going to need a location in a lot of cases. So you're going to have a store from which to sell your goods. And in that case, you're going to need to pay rent. If you're selling goods, you're also going to need supplies. You're going to need enough product on hand to be able to sell. You're going to need shelving to display your goods. You're going to need financial machinery, cash registers and ATM machines and things like that, so that if people want to buy your goods, they'll be able to give you money and you'll be able to accept it. You're going to want to consider advertising. When you're starting up a business, you're going to want to let people know that you are starting up a business. Some of your advertising options could be free. You could get your word out through friends, word of mouth, or you can maybe advertise on a free website. But there are lots of paid options as well. You could advertise in a local newspaper, which you would often be required to pay a fee to do. You could make a commercial for your local radio stations, which again would also require money. You could probably advertise on local TV stations or maybe local billboards. So there's ways to advertise where you'd actually have to spend money. They often reach more people, so they are better options. But there is also the possibility that you might be able to advertise for free or relatively cheaply. Nevertheless, it is a startup cost that you might want to consider. And also, when you are selling goods or services, often you're going to need a vendor's license so that you are legally authorized to sell whatever it is that you're offering. So this would be, say, a government license, and it would be quite useful to have that when you're selling goods for legal liability purposes. Now, once you get your business up and running, you're going to have certain ongoing costs, and these are costs that will continue as a business is run. So if you have your own storefront, you're going to need to be paying rent on a regular basis, on a monthly basis. You're going to also probably want to consider continuing advertising. It's not good enough in most cases to just say that you're open initially. You're going to want to continue to remind people that you are there and what you're offering. You're going to need to replenish your supplies as you sell your goods. If you are in providing that type of business, you're going to need to replenish any supplies that you run out of or run low on. If you're going to have employees, if you're going to need more than just yourself working, you're going to have to provide a salary for your employees. You're going to have to pay them to work for you. So that's an ongoing cost. It's an expense that you're going to have to incur on a regular basis. And again, if you're working in a storefront or in a store, you're going to need to pay utilities. That could be your electricity. In a lot of cases nowadays, you're going to need to have internet service, whether that's provided to customers or just for your ATM machine and things of that nature. You're going to need some type of internet service in most cases. Water, garbage collection, things of that nature. They're expenses that you're also going to have to incur, and that will happen on a regular basis. Next, we would want to consider the feasibility. So you decide you want to start up your own business. Well, again, what kind of business are you going to run? Is what you're offering a needed good or service in the area that you're looking to offer it? For instance, here in Newfoundland, you probably wouldn't make a whole lot of money if you set up a surf shop. There is some surfing in Newfoundland, but it isn't a hugely popular activity. So it might be a small niche market where you wouldn't get that many customers. So you'd want to consider the number of customers that you are providing your goods or services to. Are there enough customers, and is there enough repeat business to be able to maintain your business? Again, your setup or equipment costs. You may be able to offer a service or goods that people want, but can you do it at a cost-effective, with a cost-effective strategy? Will you be able to provide the goods or service without losing too much money yourself, or without losing any money at all, hopefully getting a profit? What is the value of your goods or services? Are they going to be needed, and are people going to want them? Whether they could use them or not, are they going to want to use them? The type of weather that you might have. It might not be a good idea to be selling exotic plants, for instance, in Newfoundland. Palm trees and things of that nature, because they're just not going to be able to survive, and they're not going to be very popular. So weather-related things are important. It probably wouldn't be a good idea to open up a snowblower machine, a snowblower store in July, because there's just not a market for it in July. Now, if you were to do the same thing in October, November, then you might get some business, and especially when the snow actually falls, you would see a lot of people looking for snowblowers or things like that. So when you're starting up a business, what would be the best time for it, depending on weather? Do you need a lot of employees? Will you require a lot of people to work for you, and will you be able to get these people? Would they need to be skilled workers or unskilled workers? That's a consideration. And if you do need skilled or unskilled workers, do you have a supply of workers or potential workers available to you? And of course, we'd have to consider competition. You may be providing some goods or services that people want, but is the market already flooded with other businesses that are offering something similar? And if so, how would you be able to distinguish yourself from the other competitors that you may have, so that you would be able to maintain your business? It's certainly a consideration that you'd have to have. If there's already too many people offering the same goods or services in your area, then no matter how good your product or service might be, it might be hard to break into that market. And there are other things that you might want to consider when thinking about feasibility of your business that I haven't mentioned here, but you might be aware of yourself, or you might come across if you do come up with your own small business plan. And next we're going to be looking at profitability. So profitability would be how much money is earned after all your expenses are paid out. So some factors that you might consider for profitability is increased revenue. The more revenue that you bring in, the higher the likelihood of you being able to turn a profit. And of course, if we can decrease the amount of expenses that we're paying out, then we can also improve our profitability. So some things, this is a very brief list. You can probably come up with a lot more options, but to achieve an increased revenue stream, a lot of advertising or marketing. If you get your name out there and people are aware of you, they're going to be more likely to visit you, whether that's at your store or to call you up for your whatever service you may be providing. Of course, advertising might be an expense, so the more advertising you do, you're actually spending more money as well. Hopefully, it's good money spent because it might bring in additional revenue for your company. And of course, minimizing expenses as well. If you can find cheaper suppliers or things of that nature, how can you minimize your expenses? So again, that leads into how do you achieve your reduced expenses? Again, finding cheaper suppliers or cheaper supplies. Can you find a supplier that will give you a better price than the one that you're currently using for whatever goods you may be selling, or things that you're replenishing on a regular basis? If you're using up a lot of paper, can you find a cheaper paper supplier? If you find that your business is not turning as big a profit as you would like, or not bringing in as much money as you like, it might be important to consider if you should reduce the size of your work staff. Are you paying in a lot of cases, a large part of your expenses would be employee salaries. So would you be able to increase your revenue by reducing the number of employees, or possibly reducing the number of hours that you're working as well? So if you're within a storefront, would reducing the number of hours that your store is open help you, because you're not spending as much on utilities such as lights and things like that if your store isn't open? But of course, you also have to consider in all these cases that there are advantages and disadvantages. When it comes to increasing revenues, advertising or marketing, we said already that that might lead to more customers coming into your store, but it is an additional expense that you're spending more money in the hopes of making more money. And reducing expenses, if you're reducing the number of employees that you have working for you, then you're affecting people's lives. Yes, it might help you earn more money, but your employees that you've laid off or let go are out of a job now, and they could have probably have been using the money that they were earning from your job. It might have been an important revenue stream for them, and now that's cut off. So it's never a pleasant thing to let an employee go. Reducing your hours. Again, if you reduce your hours, you may not be able to get as many customers into your store because they have less time in the day to be able to get into your store. So reducing your hours is also something that you're going to want to consider, whether it's an advantage or a disadvantage to reducing your expenses in your store. What I'd like to show you now is a video game online. It's on addictinggames.com. And it is a very addicting game, I have to say. I've played it and I've enjoyed it, but it is very addicting. It's called Record Shop Tycoon. And in Record Shop Tycoon, you do have to consider a lot of the things that we just talked about. Okay, as I was explaining about the game, an ad on the website started playing, so I apologize if that noise came over the system. So I paused the video while the ad was on. Now I'm back. I'm going to post here in the chat window the website for the game, so you can click on that. It's a very good game. It makes you consider a lot of the things that we talked about. In this game, you're working on setting up a record shop. And the first thing you're going to need to do is you've got a small amount of money, and you're going to want to find the best location to open up your business. You're going to find that you don't have many options when you're starting out. And the idea is to build your store in the neighborhood that you're in to the point where you have enough money to move up, to expand your store, move the location to a bigger location where you can sell more product and earn more money, and then maybe move on again. And during this game, you're going to have to consider a lot of things like, not only are you supplying goods, but are you supplying the goods that your customers want? And are the customers happy with the way you're running your business? Are they getting in and out in a timely fashion, or are they stuck waiting in lines too long? You can consider the advertising you do. How is that going to help your business? And there's a lot of other things that you can look at in this game. It actually covers a lot of the things we talked about in this video so far. And like I said, it's a very addicting game. It's a very fun game. And when I've used it for my classes, my students in my physical class have found it really fun to play with, and have gotten a lot out of it. And the goal is to improve your business as quickly as possible. So again, if you keep track of what the customers want, and make sure you have that in mind, and keep track of different trends that may develop during the game, then you're going to find that your business is going to become pretty profitable pretty quickly. So again, it's a really fun game to play. It's something that you might enjoy doing, and that will give you a better sense of how you play all these different options, or how you weigh them all against each other. Okay. So now we're going to summarize. So when considering opening up a small business, you have to determine your expenses. What expenses are you going to have when you're operating a small business? Are you going to have employees? You're going to have a storefront. There are ongoing expenses, and there are also your startup expenses for when you first start your business. Next, you're going to determine the feasibility. Is what you're offering, your goods or your services, are they something that people actually want? And are you going to be able to draw in customers? And are you providing something that nobody else in the area is providing? And things of that nature you're going to consider when you're determining feasibility. You may have the best good or service that you could think of, but if it's already flooded in that market, if there's already 3 or 4 other businesses offering something similar, then it's going to be very difficult to break into an area like that. And let's determine profitability. What ways can you increase the amount of revenue that you're bringing in, and also simultaneously reducing your expenses? the greater the difference between your expenses and your revenue, the greater the profitability. So there's a lot of considerations you may have, things that I touched upon in this lesson, and other things that I may not have touched upon that you may be conscious of. That will help you improve your profitability. Of course, if you can't improve your profitability, if your business is consistently losing money, then it's probably not going to be able to run for very long. And that'll happen if your business is not very feasible, or even if you do have a niche, if you have something that people want, if you can't give it to them in a cost-effective manner, then it's also not going to work. So there's all these kinds of things you're going to have to consider when you're looking at operating your own small business.